All right, welcome to the show. We have two guests joining us today, not one, but two, and the technical challenges before the show were rampant. We had some sound testing, some time delays, partly on my part there, so I do apologize, but we're ready to rock and roll. I'm excited about this. So we have Justin Barber and Eric Fuller joining us today. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for having us.
And when we expand our associations and build equity in relationships, that's when we change our world. So it's remarkable. And we just want to learn a little bit about you guys' background. So Justin, why don't you start just a little bit on where you were professionally and where you're at now?
Yeah. So I've been a nurse for 14 years. I'm still a nurse. I work as an informatics nurse right now, but spent about 11 years on a cardiac step-down unit in various roles, frontline management. Ultimately ended up getting kind of burnout, which will be very familiar to your audience, and got this desire to explore and figure out what are some of the other opportunities that are out there, and what are these folks doing that are wealthy? How are they achieving this? What are the tools that they're using? And so I just started researching it. Ended up landing on real estate investing. I knew I wanted to get into that, and was trying to figure out what could I get into that's gonna give me both experience, but also give me the best chance at making some decent money, maybe replace my income, and then get me to this place where I can begin to do some buy and hold real estate.
And Mr. Eric, that's awesome little interlude there into what do you do? How do you get into this stuff? Tell us a little bit about your professional background and where you're at now.
Sure, yeah. So I studied engineering and I went to grad school for biomedical engineering at UF, University of Florida, go Gators. Absolutely loved the time there. I realized that I didn't necessarily want to be an R1 research professor tinkering around in the lab all day long. So when I finished grad school and I got a full-time job, I actually stayed at UF to become a teaching professor. So I was teaching the classes there, and that gave me the flexibility to not only spend more time with my family, but to also dabble in real estate a little bit. My wife and I, we had two twins. We had twins at the time. We got 3 kids now, but at the time, when we got the job, we were wanting to get into a house, but we bought a condo that we were living at during grad school. So we said, oh, do we want to sell it? Do we want to rent it? The real estate thing seemed kind of interesting. So we decided to put our condo on Airbnb. So since then, we connected with others. We did some mentorship, did some trainings and coachings on Airbnb, short-term rentals, that whole world. And since then, we've done several other programs like the BRRRR Invest Method, the creative real estate, seller finance, sub-2, and all of that. And that's eventually what got me to creative private money lending, which is what I really love to do because it's able to provide a great income and you can do it from anywhere in the world. You don't have to be checking on the properties all the time. So that's how I got into this.
Justin, what was your biggest challenge, I guess, kind of coming out? It's still relatively new, I'll put that out there. If we bent your ears back, it's still a little green back there, buddy. But in that process, though, what's been the biggest challenge? Because this is just the start, right? And if it is in the trajectory of what you're telling me in the last week or two of the way things are going for you, what has been the biggest challenge for you to make this leap?
I would say there's 2 challenges. One is getting over myself and my own inhibitions, right? I've found that I'm actually fairly good at a lot of the things that I doubted in myself, right? It's very easy to doubt yourself in this space, especially if you're heavy into risk mitigation. I'm a freaking nurse, for crying out loud, right? I mean, I'm like,
and an info, right? There's info there too.
And let's go plan C if this patient crashes this way, right? So that's like literally, my whole existence is risk mitigation. And so for me, I jumped in and I had a little bit of FOMO, and I was like, okay, this is great. Look at all these people. They've got like 30% deals, boom, boom, boom. Eric was actually my first check-in with reality because I had just started networking, and we met, and he reviewed a deal that I was thinking about funding, but I just didn't have peace, And he was able to break it down what items I had missed that were critical in the due diligence.
What was it?
Many items. Yeah, there were a lot of things. One, it was the second position. Two, it was actually a deal. When you kind of broke it down further, it was ultimately these guys had a deal that had gotten stalled by COVID, and so it had a first position hard money loan, and it had been on there for a couple of years. So you can only imagine what the fees were like on that. So anyway, a lot of bad things associated.
I don't think there's a lot of profit in there for the borrower as well. Like if they're asking you for a loan, but they can't really pay it out with the deal itself, that was an issue. There were some state laws that prevented the specific type and rate of loan we wanted to do. So there was quite the laundry list there.
So could you help us understand, for the listeners out there that aren't keyed into it, what's the difference between the private money lending versus the conventional, traditional financing?
Yeah.
Eric, hit us up, baby. That's my fault. Come on.
Yeah. So hard money lenders are typically a company. The lines can get blurred a little bit between people who do both, and they've got a company, and they're kind of a hard money lender, they're kind of a private money lender. I wondered about that a little bit too, but for 99% of cases, just assume that the hard money lender is a company, right? It's some hedge fund or some wealthy individuals that started this company, and they have a whole structure set up. They've got their underwriters, their receptionists, the company email and logo and all that. And to be competitive, like now the rates are high just based on the interest rate scenario, but somewhere between maybe 9 to 12% interest per year, they'll charge you that on a monthly payment you'll make, and then probably 1 or 2 or 3 points up front, so that each point is a percentage. So if you take out a $100K loan, then 2 points means 2% or $2,000 up front that you pay in addition to that interest. So and the hard money lenders, they'll look at your credit. Usually they'll look at background check, that kind of stuff, but they'll usually be a little bit more flexible than a bank. So you might just ask like, well, why wouldn't somebody just go to a bank? The bank will offer a lower rate. Usually the banks are more strict about your credit score, your employment. The hard money lender doesn't really need to see that you've got, most of them don't care about stable employment. They just care about the asset, and you've got experience. Like you have to show them a spreadsheet. Most of them will say like, hey, how many deals have you flipped before? You got to show 4 or 5 of those. And it's a pretty competitive marketplace for hard money lenders. They've got this whole process there. Private money can be anybody and anything, where it's just Uncle Bob's got some extra cash in his account, and he's like, hey, Uncle Bob, can I borrow this to do a flip? I'll pay you back X%. It can be old grandpa, old grandma at the country club. It can be Justin and I doing our wheeling and dealing private money. Private money is a whole ocean of different people who have different ways and strategies doing it, but the most traditional way would probably be more like just somebody who wants 10 to 12% annualized as well, but they'll want a 20% down payment, and you'll just pay them off every month on that for a year, for 2 years. And it's more of a relationship based thing, where whoever your private money lender is, they've got to be comfortable with you, and they've got to know who you are.
Eric, what type of deals do you guys typically fund then?
Well, I guess I can answer that with a story with the first deal that I ever did. Our favorite type of deals are ones where there is cash that's needed quickly, and because we provide that cash quickly, it becomes an amazing deal for us and for them. So you talk about the spectrum where you've got the conventional loans, and then the hard money, and then most private money here, and then even past that is us. And when I say even past that, I mean less hassle, less paperwork, faster due diligence. Not that we don't do the due diligence, we just go through a very fast due diligence process, and we close very, very quickly. But there's a price for that, right? As you go up in these steps, the price gets more as well. So the very first loan I ever did was this guy in Iowa. We talked earlier, and he said, oh no, Eric, your rates are way too much. I'm never gonna work with you. Okay, bye. I'm like, okay, well, if you need somebody to close quickly, call me and I'll be here. So 2 weeks later, the guy called me back. He had a house that was worth $100,000, had a tenant in it, already repaired, no fix and flip, just ready to go. The house was not distressed, but the seller of this house was. The seller just needed quick cash in their pocket, and they said, hey, I'll let this go for $60,000 if you can close in 4 days.
Mhm.
So that investor called me back and said, hey, Eric, you got 60K by Thursday? And I was like, probably, let's figure it out. So
Yeah.
that's what he did. We closed them lightning fast. We got the money in their pocket, and that one, you know, all of our deals we have different rates and ranges and everything. That one was just a very quick 1 month bridge loan for 10%.
Mhm.
So it's 10% flat, not
Flat,
annualized
yeah,
interest.
flat, 10%. Yeah,
So,
short 1 month
yeah.
for 10% wouldn't be worth the struggle on that.
Exactly.
Because that
Yeah,
10%
so-
is annualized, right? When we say flat, it's boom, it's like 10 points basically.